Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. Welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about something very near and dear to my heart, and that is study skills. You know, a lot of people are very highly intelligent people, but they're not necessarily organized, not using time management skills to their advantage, and so their grades suffer. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about study skills and how you can use your personal change blueprint and then apply that to self-hypnosis to develop a really, really good study habit. So if that is something that would be helpful to you, stay tuned. We're going to learn all about it. Before we get started, I would like to thank you if you have subscribed to my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would like to ask you to please consider doing so. It's important to YouTube and the algorithm and all of that. So if you would subscribe, I would appreciate it. And give me a thumbs up if you like this kind of material. It's a very interesting subject matter, I think. And leave some comments for me. Let me know what you think about this information and how it works for you. So let's go ahead and get started with this. You know, I actually recorded this entire thing last week, and then I realized that I left out really important information because I just take for granted that people know what good study skills are, and I was just going to focus on helping you get that into the subconscious mind. And then I realized that not everybody knows what those are. Well, I used to be a teacher, and I know what it means to tell a student, you know, go study your math or study this. And I remember people going, okay, but what does that mean? What does it mean to study something? Do you sit and stare at it? Do you repeat it? Do you read it? Do you record it? There's so many different things you can do. So we're going to start this video, which is actually about how to do self-hypnosis to develop good study skills. We're going to start that with a list of good study skills. Now, you can Google these. I think that these are pretty self-evident. I think these are common knowledge, but we're going to review these anyway. I just Googled it, and I got a really good list, a list that I agreed with 100% from the University of Lynchburg. So I want to credit them for this. This is on their website. So the first study skill that we're going to, that you should incorporate really, is to make a weekly or a daily to-do list. This is really, really important. And we're going to kind of come back to this as we look at some of the other points on this list. This is a list of 10. But not only do you want to make a weekly or daily to-do list, you want to look at it every single day. And you want to honor whatever you've put on that list. So one thing that we're going to be talking about, let's see, I'm looking at my list right now. It looks like on number 6, it talks about the syllabus. So I'll just kind of jump to that for a quick second. When you look at the syllabus and you see when you have assignments due or quizzes or exams or whatever projects, you kind of look at that due date and you reverse engineer that. And this is the value of making the weekly or the daily to-do list. Because if you can take all of this work you have to do and chunk it down a little bit into more manageable pieces, you're going to get better scores, you're going to learn more, you're going to enjoy the whole education process a lot more. So that's number 1 on our list of 10. Number 2 is to use a calendar or a planner. Now, I personally like using my Google Calendar because I can color code all my stuff. So when I look at my calendar, I can see one color is family obligations, another color is client, when I have clients scheduled, another one is time for me to make videos or edit. You know, it's all color coded. I think a lot of online calendars are like that. And there's a lot of really good ones, a lot of free ones. And so I really encourage you to use that. Now, some people still like the old-fashioned paper planners. And if that is your learning style, if that's your thing, use it. Okay. You don't have to use the electronic things. More people are using that these days just because more people are accustomed to using their phones or their laptops or whatever it is to look and see what they're doing today. You know, I have to check mine all the time and see if I've got clients today, what time I have clients, and then it's like, okay, so I need to do this and just get that all organized. It's a huge time saver, and it's a de-stressor. And that's a big part of this, right? Is to de-stress yourself. So that was number 2. Number 3, get up early to get stuff done. Oh, heck yeah. Um, you know what? And if you are not a morning person, I'm going to suggest that you do some self-hypnosis so that you can be more awake and more alert when you do wake up in the morning. I'm personally not a morning person at all. That means I'm slow to wake up. I kind of hang out for a while in the morning. And at this point in my life, this is my retirement job, right? I'm retired from teaching. When I do this now, I get to call my own schedule. So I get to have those long, slow mornings. But when you are younger and you're working and you're in school and you've got little kids at home, you can't necessarily adhere to that even if you want to, but you can use self-hypnosis and program yourself to wake up at a certain time, to be awake, to be alert, get up, hit the treadmill, go for a run, do whatever it is that you do. But if you can get up early and get stuff done, just imagine how much better the rest of your day is going to go because you have included this as part of your study skills. Number 4, reward yourself when tasks are complete. Very, very important. But I want to warn, maybe that's too strong of a word, warn you. I guess I'll warn you against rewarding yourself with food or alcohol or things that you're later going to regret. So make a list of things that would be a really good reward for you. And, little things and then big things. So little things, maybe you get to watch, your favorite show on TV after things are done, or you get some screen time, or you get to leave the house and go hang out with your friends. Those are good things to do that are good rewards for you after you've completed some tasks. Maybe at the end of the quarter or the course and all that, and you're totally done with the whole thing, you get a bigger reward, right? Maybe you get to go in for a massage or a really nice dinner out or something like that. But don't reward yourself with a bag of chips or a 6-pack, all that stuff we love to do. Because I don't want you then to have more problems that you have to work with and come to see me for help about. But do reward yourself. Number 5 is to schedule some me time so it doesn't eat up study time. It's so, so important. And I've had clients who come to me and they're so overwhelmed because they have filled every moment of their calendar with work or kids or yard work or shopping or cooking. They never have their me time. And we actually would do the hypnosis and we would schedule spontaneous free time. Well, it's not very spontaneous if it's scheduled, is it? But you get the point. If you don't put that in your calendar, you're not going to do it. And then you carry that load of what you should be doing all this time and you just get burned out. So schedule that in that me time, that number 1 on the list where you make that weekly, daily to-do list, put it in there. Give yourself some time, maybe every day or maybe every other day, where you are just off duty. No homework, no housework, no yard work, no nothing that you don't want to do. And you know what? Sometimes just sitting on your fanny and doing nothing is the best thing to do of all. So give yourself permission to do that. Put that on your schedule. Number 6, here we go about that syllabus. I really like this. I teach certification courses, and they're a quick 12-week course to become a certified hypnotherapist. But it's a lot of information. And I tell my students, look at this, keep up on this, take a look on the first day of the week and all the videos, all the reading, all the practice sessions, all the stuff that I'm requiring you to do, and write that down on your calendar so you do a little bit of it every single day. You kind of got to reverse engineer that. I also say read the syllabus, and if you have a copy of the quiz or the test questions or something that ahead of time, read those ahead of time. If if there's a quiz in the back of the chapter or something that you have to take, read those questions first before you read the material. That way, when you're reading the material, it's the second time you've seen it and it kind of stands out. It's like, oh, this is an important point that I need to pay attention to. So I always recommend that you always read those questions ahead of time if you have access to them. But read that syllabus. It's your map. And that is how you can manage your time, reverse engineer all those assignments and everything, and do a really good job with that. Number 7, prioritize and schedule what you need to do and be realistic. I think that's the key here, is to be realistic. So prioritize this, schedule this. We generally know, looking ahead of, the next week or 2 weeks or a month, is it someone's birthday? We know there's going to be a dinner or an event. Are there some kids and they're going to be in a program or something's going on? You're going to want to be there. Okay, those are priorities. And so schedule those things so that you can build your study skills, your study time around that. Same thing with holidays and your personal time. That should be a priority as well. So that's number 7, is to prioritize, pardon me, and schedule what you need to do, but make it realistic. Don't try to be Superman and think that you can study, hard study 12 hours a day just because it seems like a really good idea, but that's just not realistic. For me, it certainly isn't anyway. Let's take a look at number 8. This says set aside study and classwork hours each day. Absolutely. This goes back to making your to-do list, to scheduling your time, prioritizing all of that. So set aside this time, but put it on your calendar. From 7 to 8, I'm going to study biology. From 8 to 8:30, I'm going to read my literature book. From 8:30 to 9, I'm going to review notes from the lecture. Whatever it is you're studying. Maybe you're an artist or a musician and you need to spend that time working on a project. And so plan that, set aside those hours, and also, the time that you have to be in class, so that you've got that built into your schedule as well. And you can just look in the morning, look at your schedule and just see at a glance what your day looks like. And boy, I'll tell you, it'll really, really reduce the stress in your life. Number 9, this is one of my favorites. Have a spot where all studying takes place. I taught elementary school for, 15, 20 years. And then I would always tell the kids, you know what, have someplace in your house, in your bedroom, or maybe if it's in the kitchen, you have a little desk or a little something that you bring out that is your study area. And don't do anything else. Like if you have a desk in your bedroom or someplace in your house, don't eat your dinner at that desk. Keep that just for your study time. Okay, make that sacred territory. But that's where you can have all your stuff laid out and study for a while and then go take a break. And then when you come back, it's still there. You don't have to clean it up and put it away every time. I realize that sometimes, you don't have space in your house to do that. So do what you can do. Make the space, even if it's just a board, like a tray. Put your study stuff on the tray, and then when you're done, put it somewhere and then bring it back out. Do something so that you've got your spot where all your stuff is. That's your sacred territory for studying. And the last one, number 10, make or join some kind of a study group. And this is very, very helpful. If you want to be in a study group, but there's not one that is available, make one. And with the internet, that's pretty easy to do. You can go on Facebook, or you can start a meetup group, or you could have the teacher announce that there's a study group going to be meeting in the library every Thursday at 6:30, and then go to it, and something like that. That's really, really helpful. Interacting with other students that are taking the same class can be so helpful. And also it makes you more accountable, because you don't want to show up being the one who hasn't read the material, or you don't know what the subject matter is for the week. So it helps you to be accountable, but it also is so helpful for all of you together to be studying and asking questions and quizzing each other. And, you kind of getting a little bit of a social fix at the same time. So this is a wonderful list of study skills. I would imagine that you could probably think of some more things to add in, and maybe there's a few things here that you don't really care for, and that's okay. You don't have to do these, but I wanted to include this because the rest of this video is about how to create a personal change blueprint. In other words, those are the words that you say back to yourself so that you can create the brain patterning and the habit of having all of these really good study skills. Again, I think most people that are in school, they know about this. This is not anything profound. This is not news. This video is about how to get these ideas from the conscious mind into the subconscious mind, so that these are your regular habits. And the thing I love about this is that all of this stuff this will follow you into your profession. These are all time management skills, and you will need to use time management for your entire life. So this is not a wasted activity just for the time while you're in school. You'll be able to use this a lot. So these are the study skills, and we're going to jump now into the personal change blueprint. And there's a link below where you can click that and print off your own copy of the personal change blueprint. Or if you want to, you can just write down one question at a time. There are 8 questions that we go through, and the answers that you write on these questions become the suggestions that you give to yourself while you're doing self-hypnosis. And as you repeat this information, just every day, which only takes like 10 minutes, as you go through this every day for, say, 10 days to 2 weeks, you have truly rewired your brain. And now all of these study skills that we just went over become your natural way of being. This is how you improve your life as a student. You de-stress yourself in all that good stuff. Without further ado, I'm going to jump now into the next section of this video. And this is all about your personal change blueprint. If you have filled out this blueprint before with other subjects or you've watched other videos, then you will remember that the very first question we want to look at is when we're looking at this unwanted habit, ritual, or routine, whatever it is, in this case, the poor study skills, we always want to ask, well, what's the payoff? Because there is a payoff, there's a benefit to it somewhere. Now, for a lot of people, they look at what's going on in their life right now and they say, there's no payoff. This is doing nothing but causing problems for me. I hate this. I get that. So what we want to do is we want to look back on the history of this unwanted problem and say, what was the payoff when the problem started? Or in other words, when the habit was created? Because that's all it is. If you have poor study skills, it's nothing more than just the habit of having poor study skills. It's all it is. It's not a personal statement about you at all. It's just a habit. And I will say that pretty much every client I've ever worked with on this subject can remember back to being a kid. And this is when their poor study skills started. Because if you're not doing homework and, you're not really paying attention to it, you're not studying, you certainly don't have things written down in a calendar and all that stuff, that's pretty normal behavior for a kid. But what's the kid getting out of it? Because you're developing this habit of behaving a certain way toward your educational requirements, your assignments and all that. So you're wiring your brain to be that way. And as a kid, think about it. When you were a kid and you didn't do your homework and you didn't spend all that time, being organized and looking at all that stuff, well, you had more time to play. You had more time to watch TV. These days, you can say kids have more time to be on their screens or doing whatever it is that kids do these days. Also, sometimes when you're a child and you are getting poor grades and you're not doing homework, you get a lot of attention from your parents and your teachers. There are a lot of people that are focused on you and they're talking about you and they're trying to keep track of you and remind you about this and on and on and on. And sometimes for some children, unfortunately, that's the only time anybody ever talks to them is when they're doing something wrong. And so it's not conscious, but subconsciously, they know that if they want that interaction from people that they love and they admire, they have to keep doing something wrong. Otherwise, they're ignored. I don't know if that's true for you or not. It's very interesting, but that could be one of the benefits of having poor study skills is that when you were a kid, that was the only time anybody ever talked to you is when you were getting poor grades. When you just say, you know what, I'm not going to study, I'm not going to worry about this, you don't really risk failing because you didn't try. I mean, you're still going to get a failing grade. It's nothing worse than working really hard and doing all the homework and reading and studying and doing all this stuff, and then you get like a C- and you feel like a failure. So if you just stop studying altogether, yeah, you're still going to get a low grade, but it's because you didn't do anything. It's not because you tried your hardest and then failed. So there's a lot of advantage to having poor study skills, way back when you were a kid. So think about what's true for you, and that's what you would write on this number one, whatever's true for you. What was the advantage, the payoff, the benefit at the time that poor habit was created? And once you've identified that, you can think about it and say, yep, that was true. That was going on all those years ago. But now, and this is where you're going to create your now statement. This is still part of number one on the personal change blueprint. What we're doing here is we're telling the subconscious mind that we see that the method behind his madness, right? We see why it was encouraging us and helping us stay in that behavior of poor study skills. We appreciate all of that benefit that we just identified, but now we're in a different place in our lives, learning and getting good scores at school and the class or whatever we're doing. It's a priority and it's fun and we enjoy it. We want to learn this material. And so what we can say is, you know what? Subconscious mind, I can get all those needs met and use really good study skills at the same time. I'm good at time management. I don't need the attention for doing something wrong or for having poor grades, anything like that. And I'm ready to step into a new way of being and have really good study skills. Think about what your now statement is. Again, you're just telling your subconscious mind why you don't need that value anymore, or why you don't need to maintain poor study skills to get that value. So think about the benefits, come up with your now statement, get that written down. And when you're ready, maybe you need to pause the video or something to get that written down. But when you're ready, go ahead and pause. Number 2 is coming up, and this one is really fun. It's your outcome, so I'll see you there. By the time you get to number 2, you've already done a lot of thinking about this study skill business, right? What you want to do now is you want to come up with a simple statement, just one statement. We want it to be positive, meaning we want it to be a statement about what you do want, not what you don't want. One of the most important things about all of this language that you're going to be writing down on this blueprint is that you use the words that create the image of what you do want. Because when you do self-hypnosis, you are speaking to your subconscious mind directly. And the subconscious mind speaks its own language. So you need to learn to speak the language of the subconscious mind. And that's easy. It's the language of imagery. So all you've got to do is make sure that when you give a suggestion to yourself about something, that it's creating the picture of what you do want. Let me give you an example. Here's what you do want. I see myself sitting at my desk, for a full hour every night, reviewing notes and rereading things and really having a good time. That makes an image of what you do want. Here's what you don't want to say. And sometimes when I ask my clients, what do you want? They'll say, well, I want to stop going out with my friends and eating pizza or going to the movies or just hanging out when I know I should be studying. So I know what they mean, but the subconscious mind is listening and is turning that into imagery, and it just made a picture of them doing all that stuff they don't want. Make sure you use language that creates a picture of what you want. This is also something that we want to not only be positive in the language, we want it to be present tense. In other words, I want you to write this as something that you are doing right here, right now. Not that you are going to do, not that you will do, because tomorrow never comes. It's always right here, right now. Write this statement. For example, your statement might say, I find it really easy to stay on schedule and get all of my studying done that I want to do every single day. Okay, maybe it says, I find it easy to employ all of the study skills that I have learned on a regular basis. Doing it right here, right now, is creating the image of what I want. Come up with your outcome statement. I know that you might be tempted to throw a lot of more detail in there. Don't do that. We're going to flesh this out with the following statements. And I want to mention that with the following statements, They are to be answered as if you had accomplished that outcome. Not that you're going to, but that you have. From now on, with the rest of these questions, I want you to preface them by saying to yourself, because I have accomplished my outcome, yada, 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 right? Whatever the questions are. So take a moment, think about how to word this. And as always, you know what, if you ever have questions about, are you wording this right? Or are you on the right track? I am more than happy to answer people and help people. So shoot me an email, say, hey, I'm working on study skills. Is this outcome worded correctly? Or whatever you want to ask me, I'll be happy to help you with that. So get that jotted down. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that. And otherwise, I'll see you in just a moment at the next step. Now that you've identified what your outcome is, and we've also reviewed a nice list of 10 study skills that I think are really good. This next question is all about evidence. In other words, what kinds of changes are happening in your life because you have accomplished your outcome? So remember, you've got to put yourself in that boat. Because I've accomplished my outcome. I always say this to my clients, and every now and then somebody starts going off the rails about how it is right now. And it's like, no, that's not what I want. You already have the programming for what you don't want. I want to know that because you've accomplished your outcome, what kind of changes do you see? Think about it. If we go back and look at this list of 10 study skills, that's a really good way for you to see what's different. Oh, well, I'm making a to-do list and I look at it every morning and I honor the things that I have written on that list. What else is different? I'm waking up earlier every day and getting on with my day and getting more things done. And I should add to that too. You know what? Not only is it important to get up early, it's important to get to bed at a decent hour every single night as well. So that might be something that you notice, some evidence. Changes you notice, proof that you have accomplished your outcome. Maybe you see yourself, maybe one thing that's different is that you're very familiar with the syllabus, that you have gone through it with a fine-tooth comb and you have recorded the dates and the requirements for every assignment, every project, every quiz, every exam, and then you have outlined that in your calendar. So just think about what's different in your life. Have you created a little place in your space for studying? Maybe it's on your bed. Who knows? If you don't have that much room, that's not a bad idea. I remember in college, sometimes that's the only place I could be alone, was sitting on my bed with all my stuff spread out all over the place. So whatever works for you. But on this question right here, this evidence one, this is where you're just going to brainstorm a list of things that are different in a good way because you have accomplished your outcome. Just brainstorm that. Remember that all of this information you're writing down becomes the suggestions you give yourself in the state of self-hypnosis. If you're new to doing self-hypnosis, I'm going to recommend that you try to keep these answers kind of short, one or two. But if you've done this for a while and your learning curve is kind of flattening out a little bit on how to do this, go ahead and beef that up a little bit. And I will tell you also, when you're doing the self-hypnosis, it is inevitable that you're going to think of ideas and details that you didn't write down. And you'll be thinking, oh, dang it, I should have written that down. That would have been great. Well, here's the thing. You are not limited to the answers you have written on this personal change blueprint. So if you do think of something amazing that you should put on there, just think it into it. That's all you got to do. Just think it into it. You can add stuff all the time, and I highly recommend that you do. Jot that down, the evidence on that, and maybe you need to pause the video for a minute and get that written down. And when you're ready, come back and we'll go on to the next step, which is number 4, all about imagery. As we move into question number 4, again, you're going to answer this from the point of view that you have accomplished your outcome. This question is going to ask you, well, because you've accomplished your outcome and because you see all of that evidence, things that have changed, when you realize all of that's happening, what does that look like to you? What imagery comes to mind? Now, there's a very good chance that you may think of something you already wrote down in the evidence part. And you know what? You can either write it again or you can just leave it where it's at. It doesn't matter. It's okay to write some of these answers in more than one place. Repetition is really, really important when we're doing hypnosis. So, that's actually really good. If you think about the things that you've already written, no problem. But think about it. Go back and review the outcome. Because I find it so easy to stick to really good study skills on a regular basis, I notice all of these changes happening. I'm getting up earlier. I'm making really good use of my time. I know the syllabus inside and out. I am prepared early all the time. I often get homework turned in earlier. So when I think about that, what does it look like to me? What is the imagery that comes to mind? You know what? This can be literal or figurative. And if you see rainbows and butterflies, write down rainbows and butterflies. Nothing wrong with that. So think about what it looks for you. Maybe you see your study desk with all your cool stuff on it. I love school supplies. I swear to God, that's the only reason I ever taught school, was because I love school supplies so much. Maybe you see your desk and you got all the pencils and the pencil sharpener and the hole punch and, all the cool stuff, whatever it is. What does it look like for you? Maybe you see yourself skipping down the sidewalk, carefree, marching somewhere to show somebody your report card or the really good score that you got on your paper. Maybe you see yourself pulling up your grades on the computer and you see all of those, 100%, 100%, 100%. What does it look like for you? You get to decide. Think about that, pause the video, jot that down, and I'll see you in a moment for the next installment. In this question, number 5, I believe it is, this one is about sound. So think about all of this information you've been writing down. You're going to be reviewing this when you're in the state of self-hypnosis. And what that means is you're creating a little mind movie for yourself. And like any good movie, your mind movie is going to have a soundtrack. This question is asking you, because you've accomplished your outcome and you see all of that evidence that you jotted down, and when you look at all of that, this beautiful imagery comes to mind. What sounds are associated with all that change? If something comes to mind for you right away, just jot that down. This one is probably the one where most often people kind of look at me like, huh? What on earth are you talking about? Well, let me give you a little prompt. The sounds could be that voice in your head, that internal dialogue. Maybe you're saying to yourself, holy smokes, this is amazing. I'm comprehending so much more information than I used to. I love being so organized. And dang it, I'm proud of myself for getting up so early in the morning. By the time 10 o'clock in the morning comes around, I've already done 3 hours worth of homework. Oh no. Maybe that internal dialogue is going on. The second thing that counts as a sound could be comments from other people. So again, I don't know your position. You could be a middle school student, high school student, college student. You could be a grown adult with a spouse and children. Maybe you're hearing comments from your supervisor at work, whoever might be making comments about your study skills. Those comments from other people count as part of your soundtrack. So maybe you're getting an attaboy or a, good luck or holy smokes, you're amazing comment from other people. So in addition to internal dialogue, comments from others, another category of sound could actually be the absence of a sound. Maybe there is the absence of the sound of your friends over at your house partying all night because you said, hey, I can't do this anymore. I got to be in bed at 10:30, 11. I've got lots of things to do. I'm getting up early. So maybe there's the absence of that sound. Maybe there's the absence of the sound of you sitting out at the club with your friends late into the night. Think about that. Again, I don't know what your personal situation is, depending on your age and your lifestyle. But if there are any other sounds that come to mind, write those down. It could just be the absolute sound of relief, whatever that sounds like to you. But add something. you're going to have some soundtrack in this mind movie of yours. So did you ever imagine that there would be so many details going on just because you made up your mind to create this one simple change for yourself? It's interesting, isn't it, how we can flesh this out and pull all these details out. And what's interesting is when you're going through all of these details and making this mind movie as you do your self-hypnosis, that's how you program things. That's how you make permanent change. I get a lot of clients that come in for a weight loss or they want to quit smoking, and they can always do it for a short time, but they can't maintain the change. That's because you got to get all these details and you've got to get it into the subconscious part of your mind. So that's what you're doing here. So good job for what you're doing. This is really the most time-consuming part of this process, is filling out the personal change blueprint. Then it's easy for you to review all of these answers just in the privacy of your own mind while you're doing your self-hypnosis. So let's move on to the next one. The next one says, because you've accomplished your outcome and you see all the evidence that you jotted down, everything, all those changes you notice because you accomplished your outcome. And when you think of that, all of this beautiful imagery comes up. And along with that imagery, you've got the sounds of your internal dialogue, comments from others, right? And when you put all of this together, how does it feel? This is the question for number 6. What does this feel like to you, physically and emotionally? And again, these answers can be literal or figurative. Maybe you just say, I feel like a superhero. Okay, if that's what you feel like, dang it, write that down. Maybe I bet you feel a sense of relief, empowerment, liberation, satisfaction, pride, right? I bet you feel like a professional. You probably feel really smart. Maybe you feel more like an adult, which is so interesting because, when we're kids and we go through high school, we always think when we get to college that we will be acting like college kids will be different. But oftentimes we still act like we did when we were in high school because we haven't reprogrammed that brain. And it's got lots of programs in there about what it's like to be a student. And if you carry that into your adult life, you're going to be frustrated because here you are as a grown person, but your study skills are that of a high school student. For a lot of people, high school is so easy. They don't really have to study. It's just easy for them. But then they get into the real world. It's like, oh, I actually have to study this part, and I don't know how. I've never had to do this before. Hopefully that is a problem that will be solved by the work you're doing here today. Think about what it feels like for you. I hope that you feel proud of yourself. I hope you feel a sense of relief. I hope you feel motivated and encouraged that you can do even more now that you see how easy it is to incorporate all of these study skills into your daily life experience. So write that down, what that feels like for you. And as we come back to the next question, we're sort of shifting gears a little bit. Just got a couple more that we're going to look at and sort of tie things up for you on this. So jot that down, and I'll see you shortly as we take a look at number 7. Number 7 is an interesting question. We're summarizing everything that you've got written so far and just kind of standing back and taking a look at it and saying, okay, a lot of change going on. I can see it, I can hear it, I can feel it, I see all the evidence. Because I've accomplished that outcome, that's a lot of change going on. So here's the question. What does having all that change do for you? What does having all of that do for you? What's the big deal? Why is this so important? What are the long-term consequences of this huge change that you're making? That's the question here. I think one of the more common answers to this question, no matter what I'm working with clients, no matter what subject they come to me with, is that by the time they get to this question, they say, you know what? When I can see all of that change and I feel it, and it's just so possible now, this really gives me confidence to know that I can do anything I set my mind to. So in this context of study skills, once you have accomplished this outcome and everything that you've written down, you are going to have so much confidence. And that would be a good thing for you to write here. Of course, write what is true for you. But as an example, you could write, you know what, because I'm more confident with myself, I really enjoy talking with people about this work. I know what I'm talking about. I'm a smart person. And now I know that. And I'm absolutely certain that because of what I've accomplished here, that I can move into that next phase of my life with confidence and certainty that I will be successful. That's a pretty big statement to be able to make. Think about this. Why is this important to you? It's important to you for a lot of reasons. But when you summarize this whole change, ask yourself, what does having this change do for you? Okay. It's a big one. Take your time on this one. Don't rush through this one, and get that idea jotted down. When you come back, we're going to look at one more question, and it's the same question, but we're going to look in five categories. I keep doubling that. Sorry. We're going to look in 5 different categories, asking the same question about each one, just kind of tying up loose ends and filling in any other details that we may have left out. Finish up that number 7, and when you get ready, come back, and we'll take a look at number 8. Here we are, ready to start with number 8. And I'll just take a quick minute here and just ask you again, you know what, if you're getting some value out of this, if you feel like you're getting motivated and learning something new that you can apply into your life, do me a favor, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, drop some comments down there for me, and let's have a dialogue about this. I was an educator and also a school principal for over 20 years. So this is kind of my field of specialty here is education and study skills. Be happy to converse with you about this. But let's move on to number 8. Number 8 question is this. And again, it's all because you've accomplished your outcome. You see the evidence, you know, the imagery, you've got the sounds, you know what it feels like. You've identified what having this change does for you. So the question now for number 8 is, what kind of a positive influence does all of this make on number 1, relationships? Or, in other words, the way you interact with people. And this is anybody, friends, family, co-workers, strangers, fellow students, anybody. Just how do you interact with people in general? And I think that once you are on top of it, you're using good time management skills, you're getting good scores, you're caught up on your homework all the time, you're just going to be in such a better mood. You're going to be in such a better place psychologically that you're going to be more pleasant to be around. That's going to be a positive influence on the way you interact with people. You'll be more pleasant to be around. You'll be more interested in listening to other people, having, mutual conversations. If you have a spouse and kids, or, you live with people, you may find that you are more approachable, that you enjoy spending more time with your family because you're all caught up on things. You're not all stressed out all the time. Think about all of the different people that you interact with on a daily basis. How will your interaction with them improve because you have accomplished this outcome and all that goes with it? So get that jotted down, and then same question, different category. What kind of a positive influence does this change have on your career or finances? You may be a student right now and you don't have a career. So if that is the case, just swap out the word career for education or studies or something like that, okay? What kind of positive influence does this whole change that you've made, how does that influence your career or your studies or your finances? You may find that you are setting yourself up for promotion at work. And you may find that you're able to move on to the next phase in your career. Maybe you were a bookkeeper, but now you have taken the courses and passed all of the exams. Now you're a CPA. So you're going to be able to advance to a much higher level, much higher pay grade, things like that. What kind of positive influence does this whole change, the study skills, have on your career or your studies and finances if it's relevant? If none of that is relevant to your lifestyle right now, you can just leave it blank. And sometimes that happens. There are some things I help clients with that has absolutely no bearing on their career whatsoever. And some people don't have career studies. They're not in school, anything like that. So if it's not relevant, it's not relevant. Skip it. But if it is, get something written down. The next area we want to look at, this is the third of our 5 categories. We want to take a look again, summarizing all the way back to the outcome, blah, blah, blah. You've accomplished it, evidence. What does it look like, sound like, feel like? Okay, all the way up to this. What kind of positive influence do you notice on your health because you have made this big change? And I think this is a really important one because you're going to be decreasing your stress. You're going to be sleeping better. Because you're going to be getting to bed on time, you're going to be getting up earlier, you might be working out more often. You may find that because of all that, that you are compelled to eat healthy, nutritious foods in just the right amounts at just the right times, right? I think it's very important to acknowledge the decrease in your stress. And I've had some people who say, you know what, I have been able to wean myself, but with the doctor's help, of course, off of my blood pressure medication. I'm just so calm and so chill all the time now. And so think about that. How's this going to influence your health? And if you can't think of anything, here's another way to ask this question. Before you made this change, when you had really bad study skills, remember back then, did that cause any health problems for you that are now over? Because you have solved this situation. That might help you think of some things that you hadn't thought of before. So get that jotted down. The next one is same question, only this time we're going to look at your self-esteem. Now, I agree that is part of your health, but it's such an important part of this process. I wanted to isolate it because I want you to be aware of the positive influence on your self-esteem because you have incorporated these really good study skills, because you have identified all of the evidence, the changes you notice because you've accomplished the outcome. I want you to acknowledge all the imagery that came to mind, the sounds that you identified, the way you feel because you've accomplished that. All of this is huge, and it's going to have an incredibly positive influence over your self-esteem. And this is where you're going to jot this down. I want you to acknowledge that. You know what? I want you to say, yes, I am absolutely capable of being that person that I always hoped I would be. I'm doing a great job. I really am very smart. I feel good about my time management skills, and I'm a better person to be around. I'm more kind and respectful to my family, and that makes me feel better about myself. I like being responsible, and that is just fantastic. So think about what kind of positive influence that's going to have on your self-esteem and get that jotted down. And then we're ready for the last one. Same question. What kind of positive influence? Only this time we're looking at your spiritual practice. If you don't have a spiritual practice, skip this part, okay? Not everybody does. And some people say, well, I'm religious, but I'm not spiritual, or I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And some people say, I'm not either one, but I like to go out into nature because I'm just at peace and I'm calm. That's a spiritual practice, in my opinion. Think about your spiritual practice. Maybe you will incorporate a daily meditation practice because you have time now. Maybe that's part of your time management. Maybe you've got that scheduled on your calendar, that every day or every night, you've got 30 or 45 minutes to meditate or do yoga, or maybe you've got time and energy now to go to some kind of a retreat or something. Or maybe you feel like going to church on Sundays because you just feel better about yourself and you're used to getting up early now and you have time because you are so on top of it with all of this homework. So if you have a spiritual practice, this is where you're going to write down any kind of a positive influence that you're going to notice on that part. Otherwise, if you don't have one, like I said, don't worry about it. Just skip that part. But this is it. This is the last of the questions on your personal change blueprint. You've got it all finished up now. So this whole time that you've been going through this blueprint, you may not know it, but the hypnosis has already started. Because as you spend time on any given subject, the more time you spend on it, the more ideas your brain is generating about this. And like I mentioned earlier, as you go through these answers in the self-hypnosis process, you will think of other things that would be great to include in that. So just think them into it. That's all you got to do. I'm not going to go over all of the instructions and the process for doing self-hypnosis in this video. That would make it another half hour, 45 minutes long. I have several videos already on how to do self-hypnosis, so please do take a look at those. And I also have this book. Let me get it without the light shining on it for you. It's called Self-Hypnosis for the 21st Century, and this goes into great detail about the personal change blueprint that I just walked you through, and also the entire process of how to do self-hypnosis, from setting up the right environment to, how many days a week, what time of day, and all of that, all the details you need. So you can get this on Amazon if you want to. I think it's $10. And I have a course that I made. Some people would rather take a course than read a book, and I'll put the little link scooting across there for you if you're interested in that. You don't have to take the course and read the book. It's good reinforcement if you do both, but you don't have to do both. That's not required. You're going to take all of these suggestions now. These become the suggestions that you give yourself while you're in the state of hypnosis. And as you do this, you go over these answers that you just wrote down just every day for like 10 days to 2 weeks. You will be creating new neural pathways in your brain, and all of those ideas become habit. And boom, there you go. That's how you do it. That's how you change your life. That is how you become a really good student on your terms. It's easy and it's natural, and you are just going to do fantastic. So I'm excited to do this on Study Skills. So I hope that you'll enjoy it. Let me know how it goes for you. I think this will make a really nice difference in your educational progress. So keep up the good work. Self-hypnosis every day. There's always something we can do better. Let me know what questions you have, and thanks for watching.